Okay, welcome back from the break. So, time for the afternoon session. We're going to hear more from Liberty Global about their automation journey. And we're going to welcome Vasco and Saumya up on stage. Stage is yours.
Hi, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Saumya from Cisco.
And I'm Vasco from Liberty Global.
Swedish coffee. There's something about it. Every time I have it, it really energizes me. So I hope you all enjoyed the coffee break and have the caffeine boost for this session at least. Let's keep it going. So, before we begin, let's do a very quick round of energy level check. So I'm still struggling a little bit hard to see everyone, but I'll try my best. So how many of you would say you're a 5 on 5 on the energy level right now? Anyone? Oh, there are a few. Oh, wow. OK, a 4 on 5. Not bad at all. OK, someone who's on a 3 or below 3. OK, not bad. Seems like I'm almost talking about the autonomous network level in your industry, or maybe not, because we see a lot of people on level 5 here. But anyway, we're getting there, all of us. I hope I can bring your energy levels up as well as we go ahead with the session. Today, we speak about synergizing legacy and innovation, and also how can we move through the next levels of autonomous levels in the journey as we go ahead with this. OK, how many of you have used a phone like this? And anyone who still owns a phone like this? Maybe you don't use it, but maybe you have it at your house. Yeah? Super cool. I think I was very young, maybe around 5, when my parents got this phone home, and both of them shared it between themselves. I don't know how that worked, but I used to get it once in a while to play the snake game. And I loved it. And today, when I was thinking about legacy, this came up as an example for legacy, which used to be once something super to be excited about. But it's interesting. Also, when I joined the networking industry, I joined as a software developer, and I had come from the application world. Out of college, more like Instagram, Facebook application. And when I joined there, the only thing I understood was the layer above the networking, like the more application layer sort of thing. So I had a huge struggle understanding protocols. And I would always ask the network engineers, can I send an API? And can I get information? And they would say that, no, Saumya, that's not how it works. We have the burden of legacy. So Vasco, I want to ask you, you've been working in the network industry for so long. What's your understanding of legacy in the networking industry?
Yeah, so we live in these constantly changing environments, and cutting-edge technology and legacy, we need to live with both of them. And we need to understand that what is legacy today is tomorrow legacy. So we live with this dichotomy, cutting edge, legacy, but at the end of the day, what happens is that we are always adapting to these new technologies that eventually become the legacy. So yeah, that's what legacy is. It's almost like a burden that is pushing us.
And why is automation such a prime discussion topic at Liberty Global? And also, what are some of the challenges that you've faced in that automation journey?
Yeah, sure. So let me start by giving a small introduction about Liberty Global. So at Liberty Global, we have big networks. So some of you from the network part might know us as AS6830. But part of the Liberty Global ecosystem, we have several brands, which we called the fixed mobile champions. And they are Virgin O2, Telenet, VodafoneZiggo, etc. So each one of them have their own network. What it means is that we have a lot of locations, a lot of routers, devices. We have a lot of fibers and protocols. So this amounts to a lot of complexity. But what exactly is complexity? Is complexity something good or bad? What are the reasons for complexity? Should we simplify? So this is a very interesting discussion that one should have. And I'd like to start by talking about something completely different, which is, so I'm a music lover, and when it comes to complexity, the first thing that comes to my mind is this. So this is a fragment from the score of Unity Capsule, which is a piece of music, from a renowned British composer called Brian Ferneyhough. So Brian Ferneyhough is very well known for the complexity of their pieces. And as you can see, the complexity is staggering. So I'd like to challenge you after this presentation to listen to this piece. So you can find it on YouTube. And by listening to it and considering the intricate complexity of its score, one can draw parallels with our network. So complexity is not something that is intrinsically good or bad. It is something that simply exists because of the nature of our networks. So I'd like to focus on a couple of points when it comes to network complexity. The first one is about the need of highly skilled people to run and operate a network. So this is a cost problem at the end of the day. And the second one is that networks become fragile. And what I mean with this is that they become intolerant to change. So most of the time, we do some kind of change in the network and some unforeseeable thing happen, something backfires, and we have an outage. And I don't know how many of you here didn't have an outage due to some kind of innocuous change. This happens all the time. So what we try to do sometimes is we try to use complex change management process to kind of manage this. And let me tell you a little bit about the LG change management process, which is, it's a quite boring process. We have several levels of impact of the changes and priorities. But what is interesting about the process is that we have something called complex change. So what is a complex change? In a nutshell, a complex change is a change that the amount of bureaucracy that we need to go through in order to get it approved, it's inimaginable. And we end up asking ourselves, do I really want to do this change after all? So we need to be careful because we can reach a bottleneck, which is very well depicted in this Dilbert's comic strip when he's talking about the random policy generator. So when you try to manage your bureaucracy or complexity, or when you reach this level of chaos that we need to put a lot of processes to manage it, I think that you will know that there is something fundamentally wrong with your network. So maybe in our case, we shouldn't have complex changes. So how do we manage complexity? We think that automation is the way to manage this complexity. There might be other ways. So today we have already talked here about SRv6 might solve our problems, we don't know. Other people might think that outsourcing is also the way. But anyway, back to automation. So for us, automation is not just about efficiency gains or productivity gains. So it's much more than that. So automation redefines the way work is done, and it's that empowers us to unlock new levels of innovation. But in order to do that, we need a change of mindset. So mindset change is, for us, the single most important thing when it comes to automation. And it's actually what I think it's the point that we have been struggling the most. So mindset change needs to occur in all the organization. It's not just the engineers that needs to embrace, it's everyone. It's managers, senior managers. So again, it's really important, and what we notice is that it's something that is really difficult. Saumya, can you share your experience when it comes with the mindset change?
I think, Vasco, what you said is very interesting, and it's very similar. I've seen mindset could really change a lot of things, right? I see it within my organizations, with my discussions with customers, or even when I do design thinking workshops. I've seen that mindset is the one that can help you move to the next level or can keep you stuck in the challenge area. So even though we kind of, underestimate such things like a concept of growth mindset and so on, but it needs more credit than we perhaps give it. Let me give you an example. Just a few weeks back, I was talking to a customer working on the IP core networking team, and they were on level 1 in their network autonomous journey. Yes, there are still some people on level 1. So what they did as part of level 1 was they were doing a lot of network configuration changes manually, and they had some scripts, they had some basic service provisioning, but everything was on a stateless system, right? And I'm just going to take the phrase that Luis used in the morning, which was more like plug and pray. That is what was happening. And errors can happen anywhere. But with the stateless system, it's even more different, because what happens is there's no way to track back things. There's no way to roll back, as you can imagine, right? And somehow what was happening is there was a lot of outages going on. So they called a senior management meeting. They called all of us. They were like, OK, we need to talk. And while we were having the discussion, we said that, OK, you need to have certain things that needs to be automated. How do you go to the next level? Well, they said, we want to, but this quarter is challenging. We have some budget cuts going on. You can imagine a lot of organizations go through that. So they said that there's no way we can invest in new developers or testers, and we cannot even get a new product or solution. But also, of course, the senior management exec, they love talking about AI. That's the trend with OpenAI coming up, new things. So it's like, if you have something with AI, maybe we can speak. So they said that, we want something like this. If you have a product where we have a prompt engineer, the one who prompts or gives a voice prompt, like Alexa, play Shakira, the same way, Ginny, can you depower my access points in building 5 after 6 p.m.? Do you have something like that? I said, what do you mean? What do you mean by Ginny? Like, what's that? So they said that, like a generative network intelligence, that one that takes the input, does the action by itself, has all the intelligence. Do we have something like that? I said, OK, but there is a step that we need to follow. There are a lot of things that we need to go, and you just cannot have a magic portion, voila, the network should be running. Well, of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but what they wanted to say was they wanted to move from level 1 and jump to level 5, which is a very tricky situation as well. Because, there's a lot of things that we really need to kind of get to that stage. It's a lot of things. Just before we got on the stage, we were speaking to Mark, and Mark was saying something very interesting, where he also mentioned the fact that, what we decide to do, what is our plan going to be, what is our next step going to be, is super important even as organizations before we give that input to the AI or give the power to the intelligence. And of course, Mark is going to cover a lot of this on Thursday, so you can check the details there. But coming back to this is what they really wanted. They wanted a level 5 to look something like this, where it should be self-configurable, self-healing, self-optimizing, everything zero touch. But to get there, it kind of looked like a steep curve, that you cannot just take the jump. You need to have that bridge. You need to have that foundation. You need to go from one step to another. And all of that kind of maps to mindset, in my opinion, I would say. And also what's very interesting is the fact that, as I was saying, that at one point when Nokia came to my house and we could play Snake on the mobile device, it was super interesting. today that's legacy. So of course, what's level 5 today is going to become level 3 tomorrow. So we need to also plan that in our roadmap as we go ahead. With that, Vasco, I'm very curious, where is Liberty Global in their automation journey and what's happening there?
Yeah. So let me, in order to answer to your question, I'd like to go through our automation journey. And so we have been inspired by the Spotify engineering culture. And by the way, what better place to be than Stockholm to talk about Spotify inspiration, right? And for those of you that didn't see the videos, you know, the 2-part videos are available. I would recommend you to watch. And a lot of people talk about the team structures, the guilds, and but I think that there are much more information that one should use. And I'd like to focus on 2 points. One of them is about the aligned autonomy and its importance. And the other one is how culture is the cornerstone of agility. So it's very interesting, and based on this, having this in mind, and of course NSO on top of our minds, because it was at the center of our automation, we decided to pick up a set of tools that would help us in this journey. And the idea was to try to not fall in the same mistakes of the previous automation interactions that we had in our company. And things like everyone using ADOC Ansible playbooks or bash scripting to we wanted to have some structure in the automation and also to foster collaboration. And we started our journey, as you can see. It wasn't a straight line. It was a windy road with a lot of twists and turns. So back in 2017, we implemented the Carrier Ethernet MEF services, and we decided to do it with NSO and with automation. So we created a very small team, and we developed a couple of use cases. We created some with our workflow manager, some workflows to support it, and it was very successful. Everyone was super happy with the results, and that was a big milestone. So we decided then to say, why don't we extend this to the rest of the network? And that's exactly what we did. So we started building templates for day one. We started creating a lot of services for our core network. But we reached our first problems. And the problems were that not all the devices were reachable through NSO. Not all the services that were created were ever implemented, so they were not compliant. A lot of people were still doing things manually, so no compliancy checking. So there is a lot of problems that we had to sort it out. And we kind of did. And we were able then to move to a next step where we tried to implement a little bit more complex services like the source address validation that we needed to be implemented on a daily basis for our manners compliance. We implemented segment routing as well. And these were actually very successful. But as you can see from the slides, the road was already a little bit slippery. And I think that you can guess what happened. We had a big crash. So we had our first outage that occurred directly due to automation. And it was a Friday afternoon. It's the normal cliche, right? But anyway, the importance about, and what I wanted to highlight with this milestone, it's about the importance of failure. And when we fail, we actually learn a lot. And we learn how to improve our process and how we can move forward. And it's very difficult to explain our management that failure is important, but I think it's much better to promote a failure culture than having a blame culture where we're always looking who was the culprit who did that change. So something that I think it's very important to pay attention. Finally, we are currently trying to integrate, our automation tools with other tools like Jira, like our planning tool and inventory tool. And so we don't want NSO in a way to become kind of isolated in an island. I remember from Rena's presentation in the morning, there was like this island with sharks around. So we want to avoid it, and we need to bring all the pieces together. So when we look forward and answering a little bit to your question, how can we, achieve this daunting goal, which is becoming a fully autonomous networks? And so what we try to do to answer to this question is we try to look what is the next step that we can take to get us closer to that goal. So normally what it comes out from this is a list of steps that we need to take, and we kind of prioritize them, and we try to implement them. And one of the things that we have been discussing a lot lately at Liberty, it's about network modeling. So through our journey, we have noticed that automation is as good as the network model supporting it. Then we also had other problems that we noticed, that we had several tools, and each one of these tools have partial view of the network which is incomplete. So we need to interact with several tools to fetch the information. So we would like to have just a single network modeling tool that would be accessed by all the tools if needed. So if we go back to when I presented the score of music from the Unity capsule and all that complex score, in order to try to convey the full essence of that music, we need precise execution and interpretation. The same is happening with networks. We need precise integration of all the components so that we can run the network efficiently and effectively, a little bit like a Swiss watch. So this is exactly the goal in a way that we want to reach with network modeling. We want to have as much detail as possible, and we want to have several abstractions layers about what is the actual, but also what is the desired, where do you want to go. So in order to do this, we noticed that we need to have everyone. So we need the full life cycle support and modeled so that we can reach these levels of productivity. So we need planning, we need operations, we need design, we need everyone. And last but not least, I'd like to, we noticed that in our automation that a lot of the code that we have has knowledge. For instance, during our segment routing implementation, we have a function that basically converts the loopbacks in a node SID. And so this is in the code, but if this logic change, we need to go to the code, look what that function is, reprogram it, retest, and we can then re-implement things again. So, and we would like to have this kind of information modeled in our network so that we can then move to a more declarative programming. So, yeah, so this is basically what we are looking, and we are still have a lot of work to do to reach that, but it's something that we think that is really important. So now I ask you, Saumya, but how exactly can we have this smooth transition to fully autonomous networks?
Well, Vasco, you've asked me a difficult question. I don't think so. I have a very straightforward answer to this. There is no straightforward answer, in my opinion, right? Because it is quite tricky, and you've got some parts which are right. There are some parts which you've highlighted is very interesting, like teams working in silos. Of course, we need to collaborate together and do that. And I also give a lot of credit to Liberty Global, right? I think you guys have a very good at collaboration. That's what we've seen with our working with your team when we work together. And as soon as we do something, they always have a next action. How can we get this done? People are curious. They want to work together, which is very interesting. And the second part which you said was foundation, having the foundation right. Let's say even if we take the example of NSO, we have the foundation right. What can we do next? Let me highlight an example, maybe if I go super technical and talk about one of the use cases. And you might relate to that use case, Vasco, because I think we've kind of discussed around the same lines. So we were in discussion with a customer and service provider, and they were in level 2 in their journey. And I'm going to go into the use case details here. So the use case was very specific. They said that we want to have a LSP path, and the path, we need to select the path so that it has low latency, and we optimize the bandwidth, high bandwidth utilization. So we said, OK. So the CX team, the customer experience Cisco team was helping with that. So they said, fine. What else do you need? So they said that with this use case, we want to, with these requirements, we want to move to L3. We want to be more aware of our network, and we also want to optimize the network, where we need to have a more automated optimization. And the business requirement was also very, very clear. They said that we need to have high productivity, reduce the cost, and we need to have the decision-making power. We should be able to decide the path at the time of tunnel creation. So we need to have those sort of things quite clear. So the team said that, OK, we can do that. And do you know about Crosswork Network Controller? We've been talking to you about that. So maybe we can do it with Crosswork Network Controller, and the use case you can have is low latency bandwidth control, bandwidth-aware admission control use case. So the customer said, but the thing is that we already have NSO, and NSO is running a lot of critical use cases. There is no way that we can get rid of those services. And we also have legacy devices, and we have to use those legacy devices. So we said, that should not be a problem. NSO can be well integrated. It's integrated, and it's a part of CNC. So we can have all of your services as it is. And we'll also customize the code in such a way that your legacy devices can be well integrated in the automation workflow process. So your legacy meets automation. Now let's double-click on how this was done, the solution. OK, before I go there, I observe something. And I realize there are two kinds of people in this world. Both are kind of tired by this time. I wouldn't say sleepy, but a little tired. The first kind of people are the ones, as soon as they say, let's double-click on the technical slide, they wake up. They're like, OK, now finally, she's going to talk about something that's relevant and actionable. The second kind of people, as soon as the technical slides roll up, the architecture, the boxes, they start rolling down. So bear with me. I'm going to keep it super short. And if you want to have any technical deep dive discussion, we're here for the next 2 days. You can have more discussion, and we have experts as well, so we can deep dive into it more and more. So let's go into this, quickly double tap on everything. So the customer said, of course, we have the multi-vendor network device setup infrastructure. Of course, as you know, there's NSO. NSO is running services, and so on. Now, to do this use case, which is low latency bandwidth, what was that? Low latency bandwidth-aware admission control, yes. So to do that, what we can do is on NSO, we'll have the RSVPT package that we create, which will create the communication and tunnel with the PCE, Path Computation Engine. And the Path Computation Engine, in this case, what it's going to do is calculate the low latency path. Now, once this communication is established, even if there's a change in the network, it's going to know about what is the low latency path at that point. Now, we need to be bandwidth aware. So for being bandwidth aware, we introduce another component, which is Crosswork Optimization Engine. So in this case, what does COE, or Crosswork Optimization Engine, does is that it takes information from the network and does a what-if analysis. With this bandwidth, can this bandwidth go through this particular path? Because it's connected to the PCE, it has information about the path. But how does COE get information, the real-time information from the network? That happens with another component, which is known as Crosswork Data Gateway, which is a data collection model. So it is collecting data with telemetry, CLIs, SNMP, and so on. So now we have all of that information, and we can run all of this using the workflow. OK, now we have all of these components. As you know, they're all part of Crosswork Network Controller. But the customer said, do you remember I spoke to you about legacy devices? I have legacy devices that do not support PCEP protocol. So we said what we're going to do is we are going to customize, create a package in NSO, which is a PCEP adapter, create some more custom device packages on Crosswork Data Gateway, and ensure that legacy meets automation, and your legacy devices are also able to run with the rest of your devices. So all of this was done with CNC, and this was one example where we were able to move to L3. So they were more network aware. There was some optimization, which was automated, and so on. So this is just a very quick overview with one use case that you can kind of highlight, or I could bring up. And of course, this is something we saw in the morning, right? Now you can have multiple other use cases, multiple other tools. You want to have more service assurance, you can have something for that. You want to have optimization, more analytics, and so on. We can bring up many other tools. You can have many other use cases. We can have auto capacity management. We can have the energy dashboard, which can have a recommendation engine running and can give you insights and so on. We can keep having many other things. But all of this will happen, but the most important thing is to have the bridge, to have the foundation, and to know that, OK, what is the next step that works for us, and how do we want to take the next step to really reach the fully autonomous network atmosphere. And for me, I would say that's a combination between automation, innovation, and mindset. Vasco, do you want to add some words before we conclude?
Just to wrap up, I just want to focus again on the importance of mindset change. And it's difficult to change the mindset. It's like trying to convince your grandma to use a smartphone. It's a challenge. But once she's on board, she will wonder how she ever lived without it.
Oh, thank you. And one last thing before we end is collaboration. I think collaboration is key and one of the most important things as well. And I want to thank Vasco and the Liberty Global team for the great collaboration with Cisco and Automation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Vasco. A quick question for you, for Liberty Global. What do you think prevents you from moving faster when it comes to your automation journey? What is it? Is it the technology, or is it the people and process side of the equation?
Yeah, again, I think it's always, at the end of the day, a little bit of the mindset, because people can adapt really quickly with new technologies. We can embrace them, and they are always changing. Sometimes the problem is that we want to select the right one, and so we are waiting. And maybe this waiting is what prevents us, or maybe it's a strategy not to be in the cutting edge as well. So, yeah. We need to find a balance, basically, and I think that with AI, that's a case in point, right?
Absolutely. All right. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause.